Alright, let's look at some X-Intercepts and some Y-Intercepts today. Oh, hey everybody! Alright, let's look at some X-Intercepts and some Y-Intercepts today. We are... What? I don't know. This shouldn't be too difficult. I think you guys are super smart. Alright, here we go. We want to talk about how to see X-Intercepts and Y-Intercepts in the different representations. So, I'm just going to tell you, I don't know, the way that you would find an X-intercept in a table, well, you would look for the row where, and you would write this out, where does y equal 0? Where y equals 0. If you find the row where y equals 0, that is your X-intercept. And that means that if you could find the row where x equals 0, and you would need to write more than what I'm writing on the screen. If you write more than that, yeah, so find the row where x equals 0, and that's going to be your y-intercept. The place where you find it in a graph is, well, you're going to look for where the, pretend this is writing, you're going to look for where the line crosses the x-axis. I'll write x-axis here. That's how you find an x-intercept, and the way that you find a y-intercept is you're finding where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, and from an equation, well, we said in the table that we know that we're looking for when y equals 0, so what we would do is we would plug a y in for 0, so you'd say that y equals 0, and then solve for x. Or you would plug in an x equals 0 for a y-intercept and solve, oh my gosh, solve for y. Pretend like I wrote that out. Okay, so I'm going to jump around a lot. Let's jump around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find this x-intercept, I'm going to find this y-intercept, and I'm going to find this x-intercept here. Alright, so I'm just going to use the things we just barely wrote about in the table, in this table, to find this table. Okay, so to find the x-intercept, I need to look for the row where y equals 0. Okay, so if I'm looking at this table, the row where y equals 0 is right here. There's our x-intercept, and we would write it as an ordered pair. Intercepts are always ordered pairs. And for a graph, to find the y-intercept, we find where the line crosses the y-axis. I think it was right here. So that is going to be, and remember, right here I have a hint. Our x-intercept always looks like that. Our y-intercept always looks like that. So our y-intercept is going to be 0, 4. That's the ordered pair for that point right there. And our x-intercept in an equation, okay, we're going to plug a 0 in for y, then solve for x. I'm going to use the space up here. So if I plug in a 0 in for y, oh my gosh, box of doom question again. It's like it keeps coming back to us. Almost like I had this planned. Okay, so box of doom, x is being multiplied by 2 and subtracted by 8. We're going to do the opposite stuff backwards. Add 8 to both sides. Oops. So 8 equals 2x. Divide by 2, and x equals 4. So in other words, when y is 0, x equals 4. And that is our x-intercept. Alright, let's come down here. I'll do the opposites this time. So I'll do the y-intercept, then the x-intercept, then the y-intercept. Okay, well, the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, I need to look for the row where x equals 0. So that's going to be this row right here. So 0 and then 0.25. Okay, so we're going to find the x-intercept of this graph. Well, we need to figure out where this curvy line crosses the x-axis here. But if I remember right from a couple assignments ago, that's actually an asymptote right there. So we know that that curvy line is never going to cross the x-axis. So in terms of an x-intercept, we could say that there is none. Okay, so for the y-intercept, I'm going to plug in a a 0 in for x, so y equals, because we know that it's going to be 0 comma some number, 1 times 2 to the 0 power. Well, 2 to the 0 power is just 1, and 1 times 1 is 1. So my y-intercept is 0, 1. Okay, I know that this and this will be tricky, but just think about what I was saying over on question 8. And that should help you a little bit. I was trying to drop you some hints over when I was talking about question 8. Alright, let's flip the page. Level 3 here on the back. Okay, we just got more examples of these for level 3. My X-Intercept. Okay. Well, we said that we're just going to assume that the table is continuous, like it's continuing in both directions, so we're just going to have to do a little bit of thinking here. I want to answer this X-intercept here, and I want to answer this Y-intercept here. Okay, so for the X-intercept, I need to find where the Y column would be 0. Well, I can't see it immediately, but we're just going to assume that the table continues in both directions and that there's stuff in between, so I know that the 0 would have to be down here, and since we're adding 3 every time to move down the table, I think we can assume that we're still adding 3, and so yeah, that's where 0 would be. So we're adding 1 on this side. I think that's going to be a 6. So we're going to start with a 6 and a 0. That's our X-intercept. Okay, now the Y-intercept. So for the Y-intercept, we know that the X is going to be 0, and we need to plug in, I'm looking at my answer key, and my answer key is wrong. It's embarrassing. You gotta fix that. Okay, okay, so I'm going to plug in a 0 for X, and solve for Y. So 2 to the 0 power is 1. Oh no, oh my gosh, hold on. Yeah, it is still wrong. Okay, so 1 minus 2 equals negative 1. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 1. Alright, then over here I just have a graph and a bunch of questions for you to answer. I think anybody can answer this level 4 question. You just got to take your time and answer it. Okay, have a great night.